Sony just launched their brand new flagship headphones, and these essentially claim to be the best of the best. So these are Sony's WH-1000XM6 headphones, and they claim to be better than the X Mark Vs in essentially every way. Better ANC, better sound quality, better comfort, and especially better call quality, all because of a new chip on the inside and some major design changes we'll talk about throughout this video. Now, I've been using these for about 2 weeks now. I found some things I liked and some things I don't like so much about these. So here are 15 things you need to know about the brand new XM6 headphones from Sony. Starting off with number 1, the headphones have actually been pretty drastically redesigned. At first glance, you might not notice it because there are a lot of familiar design notes here, but for one, the headband's a lot wider, so for me, I find that more comfortable. Anyone with a smaller head might not appreciate that. Otherwise, you can see on the side, the hinge is very, very different. The hinge design is a lot more adaptable to different heads, in my opinion, and it's much less wobbly than before. So the X Mark Vs, you could shake them and they really rattle around a lot. I know a lot of people complained about the hinges on that model. This feels much more solid. I could shake it and they really barely move at all. So I think that's a pretty big advantage. Obviously, I've only had these for a couple weeks now, but they fold in as well. And the hinge just feels more solid on these. The ear cups are also very easily replaceable. So in the past, you could take them off. I used a screwdriver. Now you could very easily just pull and they come right off if you ever want to replace them. They come in 3 different colors: black, off-white, and this sort of navy blue color that I actually really love. So the design is still very classically Sony, pretty iconic. I really like the way these look, and they feel more modern. They look like more of a premium product compared to the previous generation. Difference number 2, this is what the microphones sound like. So we're indoors right now. It should be fairly easy for these, but they now have a 12 microphone setup, so 6 on either side for beam-forming microphones. So this is supposed to be better to isolate your voice when you're outside, but also sound very natural inside. And these, in addition to having more microphones, also have a new chip on the inside, which is claimed to be 7 times faster than the previous generation. So the new chip should be better at processing in real time to, again, isolate your voice and block out the surroundings. And then, of course, number 3, the active noise cancellation. Honestly, one of the main reasons a lot of people will be buying these is going to be for travel, commuting on planes and buses and whatever. And I have to say, these are definitely a significant improvement in the ANC department. But ANC is not just one-dimensional, as I think a lot of people kind of talk about it. We need to break this down into several different styles. So one would be blocking out the lower droning sounds, the low frequencies, a jet sound, for example. And I tested these compared to the AirPods Max and some other headphones, and these are definitely like top 3 or 4, but they're not number 1 or number 2. So compared to the AirPods Max, for example, and the Bose Quiet Comfort Ultra headphones, they're just slightly behind in terms of their max performance in blocking that low frequency. So I was blocking about 59.9 decibels on these compared to about 61-ish on the AirPods Max. Pretty subtle difference there. But then going into where these do significantly better, these are, I would say, number 1 in terms of blocking more voice style sounds, so crowd sounds, anything that's a higher frequency than, say, like an HVAC system or a jet. We're talking about if you're on a busy street and there's cars going by and people talking and stuff like that. I think these are the new king of blocking that out. And then the third aspect of ANC that I like to talk about is just when there's not a lot of sound, how much white noise is reproduced in these headphones. Like, are they really cranking and giving you an annoying hissing sound? Well, with these, again, absolutely perfect in that aspect. I'm getting almost no hissing or no white noise at all, and they really sound quite nice. So ANC, I think, is absolutely awesome on these, and I will be making a comparison between these and all of the best headphones on the market very, very soon. So if you want to see that full comparison, be sure to get subscribed and leave a comment. Let me know what I should compare these to. Now, number 4, talking kind of similar to ANC, is going to be the ambient mode. The transparency on these is actually quite nice. So I can easily hear like directions, I hear everything around me, I know where stuff is. Overall, very, very impressive. There's not a lot of white noise or hissing here either. Again, probably thanks to the newer chip and all of the microphones on here. Overall, the transparency is really impressive on these. And once you get to this level of quality, it's going to be very subjective between these, the Bose, and the AirPods Max. Out of all of them, I still feel like the AirPods sound the most natural. There's not any kind of pressure in your ears, but these are, I have to say, much cleaner than the AirPods Max with no like remnants of static or hissing or white noise or anything like that. So really very, very impressive with what Sony was able to do here in terms of transparency. Then number 5, this is a huge one. I can't believe I didn't mention this sooner in the video. The case has been redesigned. And this is something that you might say like, oh, who cares? But this case is now, in my opinion, the best headphones case on the market. Not only is it a solid, like firm, hard case, which is going to protect your headphones, it's also magnetic, and it stays closed very, very well. So rather than the zipper, which requires kind of two hands to open, this one's a magnet, just flips open on the side, and still is like a really solid closure that will not come apart in my backpack. On the bottom right side of the case, you'll see a little pocket for your cables, and included in the box are not only a USB-C cable, which is surprisingly short, but hey, it fits in there, but also a 3.5mm jack that I'll talk about later. But number 6, the controls on these headphones are incredible. Slightly different from the X Mark 5s, but really only in terms of the buttons. So what are the controls? Well, we have tapping on the right side of the ear cup. We have swiping up and down for volume, forward and back for skipping songs. You can cup the entire thing with your palm if you want to hear your surroundings. Maybe you're on a plane and they're making an announcement. You can also have head gestures, so nod or shake your head to answer or reject calls. And the difference with these is the buttons on the bottom. And I immediately noticed these when I put them on. I love that the buttons are not both like almost the same button as they were before, like two little slots. This is like a little slot style button and a circular power button with an indent. So you can really, without looking, just tell exactly which one's which, and the controls are so much better because of that. All right, thing number 7 to know about these headphones is going to be the set of features that they come with. So these do still have multi-point connectivity. It works very, very well between like a MacBook and a Pixel, for example, or any two devices out there. There's also a mute or unmute function on the bottom by pressing the button when you're on a call. It still has all of the Sony features like adaptive sound control for like, changing settings when you're doing different things, walking versus, at home. We have speak to chat, so if you're just listening to music and you start talking, it'll turn your music down, turn on transparency, and I'll show you the Sony app later, but there really are just a ton of features. A lot of other companies, in my opinion, really end up copying Sony in terms of features. The features that you see rolled out on AirPods or on so many other brands out there, more times than not, started off on Sony headphones or Sony earbuds. All right, moving on to number 8, the sound quality with these headphones. The bass is warm, it's powerful, while still remaining very precise and controlled. You're getting an excellent soundstage with plenty of instrument separation, and we do have some new tech on the inside. So the perforated voice coil bobbin, really annoying to say that, and the more rigid dome should give you a better balance of both smoother highs, clearer vocals, and overall like really nice, clean details. And I have to say, after listening to these, regardless of what you're listening with, so even if you're just listening on Spotify, you're still gonna notice, like even with that compressed, honestly kind of crappy audio, these still sound pretty good. But if you're listening to Tidal or just local files on your phone, you can actually leverage the higher resolution codec like LDAC on here, but these do also have SBC, AAC, and LC3 codecs. Number 9, the spatial audio upmixing is a new feature on here, which should essentially take non-spatial content and make it feel more immersive. Personally, I'm not a big fan of 360 audio or spatial audio, so I don't really use that, but it's something that does exist on here. Thing number 10, unfortunately, this is still very common for the headphone space. These don't have any waterproof rating at all. I know a lot of people are very likely to wear these when they're working out. Hey, if you're in a hotel gym, like you're traveling with these, you're probably gonna wear these so you don't listen to some crappy news station in a hotel gym. But without the waterproofing rating, like I would be a little bit worried about damaging them from sweat or from rain, but without the rating, they're probably still okay as long as you don't get it on the inside of the ear cup. That's really the main reason that a lot of headphones don't have that rating. Number 11 then, the battery life on these is essentially the same as the X Mark 5s, which is pretty standard in the industry. 30 hours in the headphones when you have ANC on, 40 hours without it, and 3 minutes of charging will give you 3 hours. But there's one big change here. I wouldn't mention this if it was just the same as last year. The difference is that now we have the ability to charge while listening. Unfortunately though, the only input you can have, so you can have Bluetooth of course, or you can have a 3.5mm audio input, but unfortunately, like the obvious thing to me that so many other headphones do is to charge while you're listening by USB Type-C. So allow USB Type-C playback. These don't have USB Type-C playback, even though they have the port on the bottom, like you charge by USB-C, but you can't just have these plugged into your laptop for that. Number 12 then, compatibility. So these, once again, don't have NFC pairing. Some people might ask that. Older Sony headphones had that, but you really don't need that anymore. Google Fast Pair, like the second you turn these on, it'll pop up on an Android phone, and on an iPhone, you just very easily go into your settings, go to Bluetooth, and you'll find these immediately. Pairing very, very easily. You just press and hold the power button when it's off for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 seconds, and it'll go into pairing mode. These really work well with any devices, Android, iOS, Mac, Pixel, whatever, and these do have Bluetooth 5.3 on them, so not the most future-proof. I haven't heard any mention of Auracast on these, but 5.3 is still pretty solid. Now, number 13, this is a quirk that I noticed with these that maybe is a Pixel problem, maybe it's just because they're new and they're technically not even released yet, but I found this little quirk and I was able to repeat it a couple times. So I had multi-point set up, so I was listening to my phone, but I also had my laptop connected to these, and when I would take the headphones off, they do have wear detection, so they should automatically pause when you take them off and play when you put them on. They weren't doing that. And then I would double tap the right cup and that should pause the music. And again, it wasn't working then either. When I connected to my iPhone, the problem was completely gone. So maybe it's only an Android thing, or maybe it's just my phone. I'm not sure why that's happening, but I wanted to mention that in this video. All right, so I've got two more things to tell you about these headphones. One is kind of something that we've seen in some recent Sony products come out with the new app, and that is the different listening modes. So you can have background, you can have standard, and you can have cinema. And in essence, standard's gonna be what you use the headphones with most of the time, but if you wanna feel like you're in a coffee shop and the music's not right in your ears, but rather in the entire room around you, maybe that just helps you focus, it's less distracting, you can do that, and it is surprisingly accurate. Like, it really sounds like you're in a coffee shop and the music's just in your entire room. It's very comfortable. I find that if I'm working, sometimes I actually really do prefer that. It's kind of weird, I didn't know I wanted it, but it's a cool feature. And then finally, number 15, the app is now updated and customizable. We've seen this rolled out for the other Sony products as well, but it's nice to see with this one. Let me just show you the app. And then finally, number 15, I wanna show you the app. This is customizable now that Sony's migrated to their new Sound Connect app. If we scroll down, you'll see you can tap edit and control what's actually there, but it is still basically the same app as before. For example, if I tap on ambient sound control, it brings me into the old layout of the app. And further, if I kind of wanted to mention this anyway, if we look at noise canceling, the ANC just has on or off. The ambient sound has some more controls for how loud it's going to be, for how natural things are. You could also focus just on voice pass-through or do the auto ambient sound, as you can see right there, to kind of protect your ears from louder sounds. We can also change the Bluetooth connection quality if we want to have stable connection or best sound quality. I usually just leave it on sound quality. If you go to system, again, you can see the multiple devices that you're connected to. You can see which devices they are. We can customize what the ANC button does, so either on or off, or switch between ANC and transparency. We have head gestures, as I mentioned before, for rejecting and answering phone calls. We've got a low latency mode. And if you go to services, it's not working because these are in beta right now, but essentially you can set up like Spotify as a quick tap. I think Amazon Music as well. But those are the Sony X-Mark6 headphones. I'll be wearing these a lot, and in the coming weeks, I'll be making another video. So get subscribed if you want to see that. And if you have any questions about these in terms of comfort, working out, using them when you're in a work day or commuting or whatever, like I said, I'm gonna be using these pretty exclusively for the next couple weeks, and I will be making a follow-up video. So I'm Michael Bryan, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in that follow-up video.